Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, einen wunderschönen guten Morgen. Ich freue mich sehr, dass Sie alle schon hier sind. Aufgrund der Verkehrssituation ist das kein Selbstverständnis gewesen heute. Ich darf Sie bitten, schon in Richtung Plätze zu gehen, Platz zu nehmen. In wenigen Momenten würden wir dann auch offiziell loslegen. Also darf ich Sie noch einmal bitten, Platz zu nehmen. Wir melden uns dann in Kürze und starten mit der Veranstaltung. Herzlichen Dank.
Zero Project is the most diverse and global conference of its type in the world.
The global community working in the field of disability and development.
The tremendous value of the Zero Project is in the way in which it elevates the entire ecosystem by giving all of us a vision.
Disability is not a minority. It is 1.3 billion people around the world, and it is our responsibility to make sure that we empower that talent pool.
The conference is the annual highlight of the Zero Project, where you bring a full year's work to life.
KI, also künstliche Intelligenz, kennt keine sprachlichen Barrieren.
AI, or artificial intelligence, knows no language barriers.
Development is about innovation, and so I'm really excited to see not only what is out there, but how do we take these innovations to scale.
We are walking solutions to exist and flourish and thrive in a world that has not been designed for us. When things are impossible, we prove we can.
Zero Project is a wonderful place to share, as we've heard, the innovations that improve the lives of disabled people.
Every single one of you in this room are changing the world.
We want to make sure that we create a future that is accessible to everyone.
Zero barriers must be the ultimate goal.
It's not about having special needs. It's about having equal human rights.
Because everyone matters.
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, Menschen mit Behinderungen sind lebende Problemlöser. Herzlich willkommen zur Auftaktveranstaltung der Zero Project Conference 2026.
Welcome to the opening event of the Zero Project Conference 2026.
Traditionell hier im Parlament,
which is taking place here at the Austrian Parliament as a tradition. I'm delighted to welcome all of you, also those of you who follow via live stream, to this event. The actual Zero Project Conference will be starting tomorrow, and we have the kickoff event here at the Austrian Parliament today. There are a number of innovations that we will hear about and that will show solutions for problems faced by people with disabilities. We will also see what can be implemented. The past has shown that this can work and that human rights of people with disabilities, their right to participate in society, can be achieved. First of all, let me express my sincere thanks to the host of today's event, the President of the National Council, Walter Rosenkranz. He's on his way, but unfortunately he's a victim of this morning's heavy traffic. There have been accidents. He is on his way, as I said. We'll try to be here as quickly as possible. Let us still give him a hand of applause and thank him for allowing us to be here today. I'm delighted to welcome the other hosts of today's event who are with us already. Markus Stotter, the President of the Federal Council, as well as the founder of the Essl Foundation and the Zero Project Initiative, Martin Essl. I would also like to welcome Wolfgang Sobotka, the former president of the National Council. We are very pleased that Anthony Banbury, president of the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, IFES, has accepted our invitation to deliver today's keynote address. A very warm welcome. We're glad to have you here in Vienna. Let me also welcome the spokespersons for people with disabilities from the parties represented in the National Council. Each of them will present one of the innovations today. Please welcome MPs Christian Rager from the Freedom Party. He's stuck in the heavy morning traffic too. Will join us later. Heike Eder from the People's Party, Verena Nussbaum from the Social Democrats, Fiona Fiedler from the NEOS Party, and Ralf Schallmeier from the Greens. I'm always delighted to see that our experts have a chance to take a seat at the government bench. Let me welcome the experts, President of the Austrian Disability Council, Klaus Wiedl, the Ombudsperson for Persons with Disabilities, Christina Steger, the President of the ÖZIV Advocacy Group, Rudolf Cavagna, the representative of the Austrian Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired, Daniele Marano, the chair of the Monitoring Committee, Julia Moser, the chair of the Vorarlberg chapter of ÖZIV, Karin Stöckler, Heidemarie Egger from the Women with Disabilities Advocacy Group, the chair of Down Syndrome Austria, Simon Couvreur, and the chairman of the initiative Selbstbestimmt Leben, Bernadette Feuerstein, as well as the author-initiator of the association Ohrenschmaus and former member of the National Council, Franz Josef Heinig. A very warm welcome. Let's give them a hand too. I am very pleased to tell you that today's presentations will be introduced with texts drafted by members of the Literaturbotschaft Ohrenschmaus project. And in this context, let me also welcome the two actors, Maria Hofstetter and Gregor Seeberg. They will present some very interesting texts today. Good morning to you as well. A warm welcome goes out to all the presenters of the innovations that are being showcased here today. We also have many international guests here who are joining us at the Austrian Parliament. And last but not least, let me welcome all the members of the national and federal councils, the Secretary General of the Austrian Parliament, Harald Dossi, on behalf of the staff of the Parliament, and all representatives of interest and advocacy groups. Welcome to all of you. It's great to be here together for this event. Today's event is indeed an international one, so we will have speakers in English and German alike. If you need support with that, please do take headphones. There are headphones available at the entry to the room so that we can reduce any and all barriers if possible, including language barriers. And for the first opening remarks, let me welcome the founder of the Essl Foundation and Zero Project, Martin Essl. Thank you very much, Andreas O'Neill, for giving these welcoming remarks. President of the National Council, distinguished President of the Federal Council, members of Parliament, representatives from politics, business and civil society, dear innovators, partners and guests. I am particularly delighted to be here for the sixth time in a row on the occasion of this kick-off event of our annual Zero Project conference. It's fantastic to be here talking to you. We have incredible innovations once again that will be given a Zero Project Award during the conference, and some of them will be presented today. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's good to look back at the CRPD, the Convention on the Rights of on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, that was adopted 20 years. It's important to look back and then also think of the initiative that we have been lucky enough to initiate here in Austria, and that has had a large-scale success, and I'm very grateful for that. The Zero Project is an initiative of the Essl Foundation. It was founded 26 by my woman, my children and myself, with the aim of changing something for good in our society. Back in 2008, Austria ratified the CRPD, the UN Convention, and at the time I received a visit by Professor Michael Femberg. He had the intention to conduct a study or a survey on the objectives of the CRPD, studying 15 countries to see the extent to which these countries had already implemented the goals of the convention. My wife and I caught fire immediately. We were interested. We had also employed people with disabilities in our former occupation, and we said that's a very interesting thing. And 2 years later, back in 2010, we were able to present the results, and they led to the founding of the Zero Project. What we found out was that there is a need for an organization that is looking for innovations and giving the appropriate support to these innovations. So it was kind of the missing link that we found, and in the beginning we did not expect this to become a global movement at all. The Zero Project is an innovation network that comprises 10,000 experts from 180 countries, and I am very pleased that many of these experts are here with us today, and I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you've been doing. Please do stay with us and keep working with us. As of today, we have broken a record. We have more than 1,000 Zero Project awardees, that is to say, innovations that are innovative, have an impact and are scalable. And I'm very pleased to tell you that here in Austria we have been able, with the help of Michi Pichler, who has been leading the activities here in Austria, to develop a model together with the Austrian Parliament that is unique and unfortunately hasn't been copied anywhere else in the world. What am I talking about? I am delighted to see that all the representatives of the parties represented in Parliament have joined us and have selected their favorites from the many innovations submitted by the international community, and they will present these 9 ideas together with the innovators today. These are effective, proven innovations. They will present them, and they will also use their powers to try and change the world for the better, to make it more inclusive, and that's what this is all about. By way of example, let me just mention Irene. You've seen her in the video clip. She is using an AI-powered software to use her voice again, to communicate again. I remember very well that a year ago, my dear friend Franz Josef Weinig was actually a guinea pig himself. At the time, he spoke to us in his native Carinthian dialect. That was really great. Thank you, Franz Josef, for this inspiration. And this was something, and this gives me the chance to welcome the Member of Parliament, Mr. Fürlinger. I'm delighted to see that he himself was able to use an AI-powered language tool for his daily work. This shows that in a very short time we are able to implement innovations that have been brought to us from abroad and that can be made available to many people here in Austria. That's what this is about, and that's why I would like to thank the President of the National Council once again for not only continuing this tradition, but also for entrusting us with increasing our activities in the future. I would like to wish you the best of success, and would be delighted to see as many as possible of you during the actual Zero Conference. I would now like to pass the floor back to our moderator, Andreas O'Neill. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for these kind introductory works. In the meantime, the President of the National Council, Walter Rosenkranz, has arrived. We're glad to see you here already, in spite of the heavy traffic. Let me right away ask you for your introductory remarks. Welcome, Walter Rosenkranz. Ladies and gentlemen, it was not myself you need to thank. You should thank my driver, who managed bravely to get me through the traffic in spite of the not so heavy snowfall, which has led to heavy congestions in Lower Austria. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Zero Project conference and to the Assembly Hall here at the Austrian Parliament, together with the members of Parliament and my predecessor Wolfgang Sobotka, who had a leading role for the Zero Project and its guest appearances here at the Austrian Parliament. And he also had a very important additional role in making the building as such accessible during the renovation work for the Austrian Parliament. That's something that has made us very proud. The Austrian Parliament is indeed accessible. But there are things you find out every now and then that are not perfect, and it has been mentioned. We heard about Klaus Führlinger. It was this very assembly hall in which we succeeded in making things possible. Ellen Taylor and Franz Josef Heunig were mentioned. We succeeded in helping to give a member of parliament his voice back. He lost it due to an illness, so he regained his voice, and this made it possible for him to do what members of parliament usually do, to talk in his own voice. And I think all of you and the MPs present here today will confirm this. This was a very emotional moment in time, shared by the members of the various parties represented here in Parliament when he managed to use this tool here for the first time. We owe this to very committed human beings in the best sense of the word, and we owe this to institutions and bodies such as, or initiatives such as the Zero Project that are making this possible. Together with Martin Morandau of Smart in Life, the parliamentary administration, this was made possible. Well, people may think, well, so what? A member of parliament is using an avatar, an AI-powered tool to speak. Well, is this possible legally? You wouldn't imagine the problems we have with electronic voting and such. Yes, it's possible. All of this has been verified and assessed. There was quite some time pressure before this was implemented for the first time. And we know that this may have been a small step, but it was a huge step for Parliament, and since December of last year, it's become a new normal. We are planning a meeting of the National Council soon, during which our colleague, who is the chair of the Legal Committee, will speak to us again using this tool. So this is something that we have already included in our day-to-day work. This is a moment that has shown to us very impressively what technological developments can do. They can reduce barriers. They can make sure that we have a functioning parliament, that political participation is indeed ensured in our democracy, and that political people can have their voice again. This is important, especially in places such as a parliament that lives with the spoken word. And this brings me back to the kickoff event of the Zero Project conference and to last year's event when this was first presented. These encounters, and that's one of the advantages of the Zero Project, these initiatives give or open up the opportunity for long-lasting cooperations. My wife is working in the area of including members with people with disabilities in the labor market, and she too confirms that these cooperations are fundamental. The fact that we are here today shows that this cooperation is continuing. Mr. Essl and Mr. Pichler, who is one of the guiding forces behind the project. He is basically in charge of everything. He's smiling at me. I think you do deserve a big hand for this extraordinary organizational and logistic activity that you are leading. Accessibility, equal opportunities must not remain abstract ideas. Thanks to the Zero Project, they are becoming real, they are put into practice. Thanks to people with a true sense of responsibility. The members of Parliament present here today have selected projects that are about enabling accessible, self-determined communication to learn new skills, and that is something that continues along what was started here back in December. And this is a cooperation across parties that helps making these initiatives visible in Austria. That's a very strong signal that shows that inclusion is not a side a project, but something that joins us across all areas. To me, it has always been very interesting to attend the meetings of the Human Rights Advisory Board. We also talked a lot about people with disabilities, and it's always been a learning process for me. You may remember the discussions about when we said, well, how are you going to refer to these people? Handicapped is not a word that you should use any longer. And now I'm learning you should mention the disabilities. You should speak about people with disabilities, not because they are disabled themselves, but because they are being disabled by society. And by accepting this approach, we are able to change things, to making people less disabled by society. These are small steps sometimes, and things take some time. That's also the case for politics, but let me tell you, the Zero Project does give us some hope that things will advance, even if it takes some time. The Zero Project is a living example of the spirit of cooperation. It reminds us that inclusion, accessibility, self-determination are gauges for democracy and the way how our society works and lives together. Societies become more innovative, resilient, and more human thanks to this. I would like to thank all of you who are participating to the conference. Thank you for your commitment, your expertise. Thank you to the MPs who have been supporting inclusive solutions sustainably. I wish you a successful conference, interesting discussions, and many, many inspirations for your future work. Welcome again to the National Council and the Austrian Parliament. Thank you, President Rosenkranz. We are pleased to continue working on reducing these barriers so that everyone can participate in everything that our society does. That includes the political activities, participating in politics, in voting, and accessible voting processes. That's one of the issues for this year's conference, and we are pleased to welcome Anthony Banbury for the keynote address. I am handing over to you. The stage is yours. Welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is such a great honor for me to be here today before all of you to talk about such an important subject. I have to say, ever since I traveled to Austria as a young boy of 10 years old with my family, I've been enamored by your country, and it is a deep pleasure to be here among you today. Dear President Rosenkranz, dear presidents of the National Council, parliamentarians, dear Martin Essl, and all participants here today, it is such an honor to be here alongside our esteemed partners at the Zero Project and disability rights advocates from around the world. I want to start by commending the Austrian Parliament for your work making this Parliament building accessible and for the digital accessibility of your library content. This Parliament serves as an example for others around the world of what it means to make democracy deliver for all and accessible to all. I can tell you from my travels around the world, including many visits to Parliament buildings, you here in this Austrian Parliament are a real leader, and your leadership is becoming increasingly recognized around the world. I also want to thank and congratulate Martin Essl for his vision of a world with zero barriers and for his generosity and commitment to making that world possible. Martin is a true inspiration for me, as I know he is for many of you in this room and indeed around the world. The organization I lead shares the vision of a world with zero barriers and one where democracy delivers for all. At the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, or IFES, we don't work to make just elections accessible. We work to make entire political systems accessible. True inclusion means ensuring that every person can exercise all their political rights, to vote, to serve as a political worker, run for office, serve as a government official, advocate for legal or policy reform, and much more. Working holistically and seeking transferable good practices is what connects us so powerfully with the Zero Project, and we share a passion for practical solutions. So I was honored this morning to formalize our collaboration by signing a memorandum of understanding with Martin and the Zero Project, a partner that shares our commitment to building societies where persons with disabilities can engage, lead, and shape the decisions that affect their lives. Inclusion is not a side project at IFES. It is so central to our mission that it is enshrined in our strategic plan. It shapes how we work, what we fight for, who we work with, and indeed who we are. For example, just last week, I was in Moldova, where IFES is supporting dialogues between the Election Commission and organizations of persons with disabilities, OPDs, to identify barriers to political participation and develop solutions. The Central Election Commission of Moldova has a long history of engagement on disability rights. They were one of the first election commissions in the world to distribute voter education information in an easy-to-read format. And there are good practices and examples from around the world. In Jordan, the country piloted a sign language app so that deaf voters could communicate with a sign language interpreter at polling stations. The National Electoral Institute of Mexico, another partner of IFES's, worked to develop a binding national protocol on inclusion of persons with disabilities, and this work was recognized by a Zero Project Conference Innovative Practice Award in 2019. This protocol includes requirements for Braille ballot guides, improved physical access, establishment of polling stations in hospitals, provision of subtitles in televised messages, the use of sign language at debates and public speaking events, and an accessible website. And just last week, Bangladesh held very important elections where IFES was very active. We supported an OPD, the Bangladesh Society for the Change and Advocacy Nexus, to develop a model accessible polling station. This initiative demonstrated that not only can persons with disabilities work as poll workers, but that simple things like a ramp, a banner with sign language, and a portable speaker with audio voting steps make a transformative difference. These features are not costly or difficult to put into place. The model polling station has helped OPDs demonstrate how inclusive, accessible, and rights-based voting environments can be created in real polling stations. In the last year, and despite significant global political upheaval, we have embarked on new frontiers in the disability inclusion space. With support from Microsoft, IFES is expanding work on accessible election technology, an area where innovation is urgently needed. And here again, I commend the Austrian Parliament for your introduction of new technology to make political participation more possible. I want to commend Microsoft as a shining example for the private sector of a company that does not just talk about a commitment to accessibility, but delivers on that commitment. We all know that the pandemic accelerated the adoption of so many technologies, and the pace does not seem to slow. Unfortunately, election technologies are too often not accessible to persons with disabilities. This makes meaningful participation difficult, if not impossible. Finding practical solutions to address these barriers is non-negotiable, because inaccessible technologies create inaccessible democracies that cannot fully represent or serve their people. That is why IFES is so proud to introduce the election platform for accessibility through human rights and security, making its debut at the Zero Project Conference on Thursday. This database captures available accessible election technologies from around the world and shares the feature of each product. We envision the database becoming a practical tool for election management bodies, disability rights organizations, observer missions, democracy practitioners, and anyone committed to building inclusive electoral processes. It is a resource designed for collaboration because inclusion is something we build together. And I believe the Austrian Parliament, as it's demonstrated its work across political parties here, is a great shining example of that as well. And here I would like to pay special tribute to my colleague, Virginia Atkinson, whose vision, hard work, and relentless determination have not only made IFES a global inclusion leader, but has earned her a spot on the Forbes Accessibility 100 list. And that brings me to the moment we are living in today. Around the world, we see signs of democratic backsliding. Institutions under strain, rights under pressure, trust is eroding. In times like this, the work of partners like the Zero Project matters more than ever. Because the truth is simple, democracy cannot afford to leave anyone behind. We need every voice, every leader, every voter, every person contributing to the democratic process. When we design elections that welcome all people, we build societies that value all people. And when we commit to inclusion, not as an aspiration, but as a practice, we build democracies that are resilient, representative, and worthy of the people they serve. That is the future we are working toward. That is the future that President Rosenkranz and the presidents of the National Council are building. That is the future that Martin Essl has shown us the way to, and it is the future that we can all build together. IFES looks forward to working with the Zero Project and many of you in this room on this important objective. An inclusive democracy is a resilient democracy. In the words of the IFES mission statement, together we build resilient democracies that deliver for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony Banbury, for your great presentation and for the vision for future that we will try and give everything to build together. Wir haben also gesehen, wie wichtig barrierefreie Prozesse auch in der
You have seen how important participation is also in the political process for an inclusive society that finds solutions that will be presented here today and that will also be honored during the upcoming Zero conference. And one of the persons who is responsible for selecting the projects and being presented here in Vienna is the CEO of Zero Project, Michael Fembeck. Could I ask you to come to the podium?
Lieber Michael,
how do these innovations reach Austria?
The Zero Project team,
the the international team, spends 6 months of the year as like a research institute. There's 10, 12, 15 people sitting together, and we have a clear process. Within the 6 months, we start with a nomination process. Then there's various selections, peer reviews, votings, and at the end of the day, we make a selection. This year, we had 600 nominations from more than 100 countries, which was the starting base, and we ended up with 75 projects and 7 projects that were now selected for today. Access, freedom from barriers, IT, crisis response, crisis management were the subjects of this year's projects where our focus lay. And we've got many new innovations. So this phase lasts from April to October. In October, we then convert into a management team, a management tour. We know we have to come up with a report and not just present our projects on a website, but we know that we need to communicate and share the results with stakeholders. The Zero Conference is now being hosted for the 15th time since 2012. It revolves exactly around those subjects. And from that mix, we have been now also able to include the Austrian Parliament, and this is why each year we can have this kick-off event here. It's hosted by Austrian parliamentarians, members of parliament. They are willing to cooperate with us, and from the 75 projects, we then come up with a short list of 10 to 15 projects. Mr. Pichler, together with members of parliament, selects from the 15 they consider to have potential also here in Austria. And we do hope that we'll be able to start many projects here in Austria with partners. A final word, when you see those 5 projects, you will see that our focus is on access to healthcare systems. That's this year. That is not accidental. We had Professor Fehlinger on our team, who was instrumental in coming up with those solutions on inclusivity of the healthcare system. EU are planning to actually get anchored firmly here in Austria. Final question. You're seeing so many different amazing technological developments. Are there any clear trends? Well, the trend goes towards AI, to put it in one word. It's not just a buzzword. It's not just a slogan. We heard about the various technologies where AI is being used, and you'll see that and hear that again today. AI is here to stay. And I am sure that 25 of the 75 projects had an AI element. That is the big topic. Well, we are looking forward to that. Thank you very much for your wonderful work. Let's get started. I'm curious to learn more about the 5 innovations. Each innovation will be introduced by a reading of a text that was written by a person with disabilities, reflecting their realities. And as said, they are being read by Gregor Seeberg and Maria Hofstetter. Then we have representatives of the political parties here in Parliament who will present the innovation. And once having been presented, we will then have questions on the innovations to take a look at what is possible in Austria. And then we'll take a look at implementation in Austria. Let's get started with our first innovation and the first reading. Hospital by Ron Pfennigbauer. Doctor, the nurse, bed, operating theater, flashing blue lights, ta-ta, emergency doctor, help, discharge, emergency, CT, MRT, die, too late. You don't know your way around, no information about what it's about. What is it about? No information. Information. Language is missing. It's horrible. The doctor comes. You can't get out of there. People with disabilities, and that's true, often suffer. And that's clear. Sirens, flashing blue lights. Oh dear. Horror. Soon, the story will be over. Let's get started with the first innovation, and I'd like to ask Christian Ragger from the Freedom Party to present the first innovation. Very good morning. I'm sorry that I was late. I come from that Austrian state that is far away, but everything worked well apart from the traffic in Vienna. Anyway, I'd like to thank our president and the former president of the Austrian Parliament for this opportunity to be here and host this conference. Why did I choose this innovation? How did I get in contact with it? Ever since 10 years, I'm the Secretary General of Social Institutions and Associations in Europe. We look after projects in 27 countries. We sat together with Michael Pichler and the Fundación Personas from Castilla and León, and we had a conversation in German, in English, and we tried and fought for words in Spanish. I then tried to make a joke, and I said I'm using Duolingo and I'm still not understanding anything. And this led us to understand, how many languages do you know? How many languages do you speak? You come to a hospital, you know the languages, and still you are not able to communicate. And that was our rationale, the underlying thought that brought the ground for this project, where we said we want to go to a hospital, we want the best possible medical care, and we can't get it because there is a barrier, there's an obstacle. Because basically we have not understood to bring those people, how to integrate and bring those people on board. And this is specifically what this project is all about. 2,000 people, doctors, nurses, have been trained. 3,000 people have meanwhile been tended to, people with learning or intellectual disabilities. So this is a project that comes from practice. It's an important step towards integration and inclusion. I was told by our president that I had 2 minutes, and to end my presentation, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to present this project this year in Valencia, because it is a project that is actually ready for national implementation at national level, and also perhaps at European level. And this is our plan. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Christian Raga. This is a project from Spain. Atención Sanitaria Integral. Well, my Spanish too is very basic, but I'm delighted that we now have this innovation allowing people with learning disabilities to access the healthcare system. And we now have Daniel Clavero Herrero for his presentation.
Good morning. For those who can see me, I'm 55 years old. I have brown and white short hair and beard. My height is 1.70 m, and I'm wearing a dark suit with a silver tie. Is the healthcare system prepared to adequately care for people with disabilities? Well, based on our experience for people with disability and their families, visiting a healthcare center has been always a nightmare. In the next few minutes, I will try to explain how in Fundación Personas in Spain, we are trying to change this perception. Firstly, it's important to highlight that the AC program originated as a response from families of people with disabilities, some of whom are medical professionals, in light of evidence that the healthcare system did not adapt to their needs. A situation of inequality was evident in the following ways: a disadvantageous situation for persons due to their own limitations, difficulties undergoing diagnostic tests and providing care, feeling of insecurity in an environment that did not empathize with disability, lack of information and specialized training from health professionals. It was clear that a change was necessary, but no one dared to take the first steps. Once again, families decided to lead this change. Families decided to bring together and coordinate all the stakeholders involved through working committees, firstly made up of families from Fundación Personas who carried out an initial situation diagnosis, the true initial impetus of this project. Secondly, integrating the Association of Autism and health personnel from the public administration. In this way, the problem was managed from the experience and with a focus on the needs of the people. Through an alliance between Fundación Personas and the health department of the regional government, and with the development of a pilot test in one of the most important hospitals in our region in Spain, and the creation of shared work spaces with doctors, nurses, social workers, and psychologists. This framework of collaboration was successful, and three major areas of intervention were identified. The first aimed to promoting accessibility through automatic alerts in the healthcare computer system that warned in advance of the arrival of a patient, AC activating protocol and specific measures. Secondly, the implementation of training programs for current health professionals in hospitals and the creation of an optional specialized subject on the disability at the nursing degree at the University of Valladolid in Spain. And lastly, but maybe the most important, the establishment of a case manager role in the hospital, a professional serving as a link between persons with disability, their families, and the healthcare center. Let's talk about results. Is the AC program being useful? Firstly, the impact of the program has improved the service, and surveys show a high level of satisfaction. Now going to the hospital is much easier. In fact, we have over 3,000 AC case interventions each year, and more than 2,200 health professionals have gone through our training programs. In the university, more than 500 students have chosen to enroll in a subject on disability, the most highly rated in the nursing degree among many others. And regarding the integration of the program into public policies, there are two very important evidences. The framework document of the AC program, a reference guide, has been published by the health authorities. And the AC program is formally integrated into the Plan Personas, where it is defined the regional government strategy for the humanization with the healthcare system. In summary, the AC program is a clear example that the status quo can be changed when there is a fair cause to move towards a more inclusive society. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel Clavero Herrero, for the presentation. We will now have the opportunity to ask you some questions. The first question will come from Klaus Wiedl, but at first he will have some words as the representative, as the president of the People with Disabilities in Austria. Also Klaus Wiedl wird seine erste Frage in Kürze stellen, aber als Präsident des
Klaus Wiedl will ask a question and he'll make some statements and give an introductory statement as well. Thank you very much. President of the National Council, President of the Federal Council, members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. I am the President of the Austrian Council, Advisory Council for the interests of disabled person, and I'm always happy to learn about new initiatives in the field of inclusion and integration. I'd like to thank you all for hosting this kickoff meeting for the Zero Project Conference, and that it is being hosted for the 7th time at a central place of Austrian democracy here in the Austrian Parliament building. Thank you very much to the presidents of the Austrian Parliament. This year again, we are expecting more than 1,000 attendees taking part in this conference. With all the encounters, exchanges and dialogues, we hope that you will derive valuable impetus and fresh ideas. I'd also like to thank all innovators who, with their wonderful ideas, are working and fighting towards a world without barriers. I'd like to thank all those who have made possible this event here in the Austrian Parliament and also at the UN headquarters. I'd like to thank in particular the team of the Essl Foundation, first and foremost the founder of the foundation, Martin Essl, and his family, who have made it their mission and their task to work towards a world without barriers. And in that way, making the life of people with disabilities better in a sustainable way. Along these lines, I wish you interesting and successful conference days. Thank you very much. And now my question on the innovation that has been presented from the perspective of the Austrian Board for the Interests of People with Disabilities. This has been a very interesting presentation, enabling access to the healthcare system for people with intellectual disabilities, and that within the public healthcare system. Can you give us some practical examples of specific actions that have been introduced thanks to the AZ program in the system?
So just a short summary, because it was asked in German, if it's possible for you to give us some specific practical examples how the AZ project program was able to implement specific actions into the health system.
Thank you for the question. The best practical example what we are doing is what we call Decalogue, that is, which outlines the 10 measures of action which the program is based. For example, advanced preparation of the medical appointment in coordination with the case manager, reducing waiting times in waiting rooms and adjust attention times to the patient's pace. Facilitate family accompaniment and use always a simple language. Providing necessary accompaniment and support, spaces for carrying out diagnostic tests, and coordinating with professionals of the social organization to which the person is affiliated. As you can see, these measures are based on common sense, but the reality is they were not applied before.
Thank you for the question. Danke für die Frage. Thank you for the answer. The second question will come from Christine Steger.
Good morning. And thank you so much for your presentation. I deep dived in your website, very impressive. In Austria, we face very similar challenges in the healthcare system as those described in your project. In specific, people with learning difficulties and those on the spectrum are often not given the attention they need in the system, and people talk about them rather than with them. So medical treatment steps are discussed with accompanying persons or relatives, and the actual patients are not adequately addressed. The time factor also plays a major role, so often there is no time for assisted communication or even easy language. So I would now be interested to know who took the first step in addressing these important issues and who supported it. You mentioned the parents and the families. So how did you proceed with training your employees, and also were there any obstacles to that? Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question. Well, we have addressed this problem from two different perspectives. Firstly, by providing training to healthcare professionals through online courses taught by experts in disability sector, psychologists, educational psychologists, and special educational teachers from Fundación Personas, our organization. These courses are structured in 4 blocks covering knowledge on disability, support strategies, DXC protocols, and many general aspects. But this has helped this professional to empathize with people in a different way and understand them better. Secondly, we have improved time management through the role of the case manager, who prepares the visit in advance and accompanies the person with a disability and their family throughout the consultation process. Overall, as you can see, there is a practical approach aimed to generating knowledge and empathy.
Thank you very much, Daniel Clavero Herrero. Very interesting to see what impact you were able to have in the Spanish health system. We wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Zum Abschluss der ersten Innovation darf ich noch einmal Christian Rager nach vorne bitten.
To end our first innovation, could I ask Mr. Rager once again to floor to give us an outlook of what might come out of that project and how it can be implemented? Well, as you can see, we have reached an advanced level. We are integrated already. 5 years I used to be the social agenda governor in one Austrian state, and I'm a politician who works with grassroots, who is practically oriented. I always ask myself the question, how can things be implemented? And I made a proposal earlier that you start at the top in Brussels. You start to present the project there, and I'd like to take this opportunity this year on the 11th of June to present this project in Valencia with my president, who also is chairing the meeting. She's from the Valencia region, and I will be able to present that project there and then to break it down to various initiatives at European level, right down to Austria and our individual states. If we take this step, if every single politician who's responsible for these matters works together, cooperates and coordinates. I've been working here in Parliament for more than 10 years, and there's never been a dispute when we agreed on efforts and measures to promote the needs of disabled persons. That is the step we are going and planning to take. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Christian Rager. Thank you, Daniel Clavero Herrero. That was innovation number 1, inclusion of persons with intellectual disabilities in public hospitals. Let's continue with innovation number 2. Voice by Iris Zeitlinger.
Laut.
Voice. Loud. Quiet. Finding words. Without words. I have no words. Silence.
Stimme.
A voice. Have a voice. Not to be heard. Wanting to be heard. Wanting to speak. You can't. You're voiceless. To speak. You want to be heard. Whether with or without a voice. I want to have a voice. Speaking, you want to be heard, but you don't have a voice. What can I do? Speaking, you want to be heard, with or without a voice. A voice, loud, soft, high, low, whispering, male, female, mechanical, spongy, spoken tone. Voice, expression, power, emotions, processing, fear, communication, thoughts, words, sentences, noise. This innovation is about your own voice, and it will be presented by Heike Eder. Heike Eder, a very warm welcome.
Schönen guten Morgen.
Very good morning. For those of you who can't see me, I'm 37 years, 164 centimeters. A mauve dress. I have 2 crutches and I have brown hair. Talk to me, goose. Many of you know the sentence from Top Gun, the world-famous film. And there it means, now things are getting serious. Every second counts. And today, it means something different. Something bigger, larger. It means, give me my voice back. And this AI-supported app called Talk to Me Goose allows people with ALS or with a restricted voice to communicate with their own voice, not artificially, but personally, emotionally, and without long breaks. What does that mean specifically? That is something I actually learned in late 2025. We had a colleague from the Member of Parliament whose voice left him being to a disease or illness, and he gave his first speech using an AI-supported avatar. That was a very, very emotional moment. And we were all amazed and astonished. Now, why did I support this project? Why am I supporting this project? For that very reason. Because this innovation shows what AI can enable. It gives people back something that is so central for their dignity, for their participation, their voice. People with disabilities don't need people who act for them. They need true access, they need participation, and they need a voice that can be heard. And if technology enables that is a very good, genuine innovation. Or, in other words, talk to me, goose, using the Top Gun language. Thank you very much, Heike. We've heard that we have a new app, an innovation that was developed in the US, Talk to Me Goose, and it makes sure that with the help of AI, people with linguistic disabilities get back their voice and can participate in communication. The project will be presented by its inventor of the app, David Betts. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Eder. Thank you, Andreas. And thank you to the Zero Project. It's an honor to be here. When a voice is lost, what's lost? Spontaneity, connection, the ability to tell a story. Imagine you as a distinguished member of Parliament, that your voice was stolen from you, that you could never speak again with the passion, inflection, and the inspired tone that helped elect you to office. Imagine you could never whisper to your loved ones or comfort your child. For the estimated 500,000 people globally living with ALS or motor neuron disease, a disease for which there is no known cure, there's nothing to imagine. This is the reality that they face. Their voice, a signature sound as individual as a human fingerprint, is just part of this disease's ruthless and relentless raid on their bodies. My name is David Betts, and I was diagnosed with ALS in 2024. I know at some point I will lose my ability to speak. I also know that ALS is powerless to silence me. Last year, I introduced a new AI-powered communications app called Talk to Me Goose that allows people with ALS and other speech-limiting conditions to communicate naturally in their own voice and from the ease of their mobile device. The app uses 11 Labs voice cloning technology as the engine for an easy-to-use solution that restores tone, warmth, and personality to conversation through an AI assistant called Merlin. Even as the natural voice begins to fade, speaking with independence, intent, and inflection remains possible. Imagine, I'm cold, becomes, hey, when you have a minute, could you get me a blanket? To be clear, the goal is not efficiency, it's dignity. Curious what reclaiming dignity actually sounds like?
Zunächst möchte ich Herrn Magister Klaus Fürlinger danken. Es ist mir eine Ehre, in Ihre Fußstapfen.
I'd like to thank Mr. Fürlinger. I'm honored to step into your footsteps.
Dies ist meine App.
That's my app, to give people back their voice. I think that people often satisfy themselves with less than what is possible. Technology is easily available and not very costly, so there's no obstacle for people, and they have access to a basic human right, and that is communication.
We've asked people to settle. For far too long, we've asked people to settle for far less than what is possible. I didn't know how to build an app when I started. I just couldn't accept what existed. So I got to work, and I created a new reality for people like Darren and his family. When I met Darren, he hadn't been able to speak for quite some time. Using the app, he was able to tell a bedtime story for his kids. It was the first time his youngest was able to hear her father's voice. That family is the emotional heart of our work.
With a gentle light. Cuddlebite's most special trait was kindness. Whenever someone felt sad or had a problem, Cuddlebite's gentle touch could cheer them up or help find a way to fix things.
How does that reality sound to you? Today, Talk to Me Goose is available for free to people living with ALS in the United States and Canada, thanks to a partnership with the Live Like Lou Foundation. The app works in 31 languages across Apple, Android, and Windows, and yet with close to 100 million people globally who have yet to experience the extraordinary benefits of assistive technology, we've only begun to scratch the surface of what's possible. Widespread access remains our biggest impediment to impact. I am so grateful to be a Zero Project awardee, for the opportunity to speak before you today and to use my voice while I still have it to bring the power of this technology to life. But today is so much bigger than me. Today is about preserving the fundamental human right to communicate. It's about reclaiming hope. We have a chance right now to amplify something that truly matters. Today we must seize that chance. Darren died just 3 weeks ago. Ask yourself, the sound of his voice will live on in the heart of his children. How much would that matter to you? Today, in his honor, I humbly ask for your support in breaking down access barriers and broadening and deepening our impact for the 63,000 people here in Austria that live with a disability that creates a communications barrier. Because the barrier is not innovation, it's access. And the millions of people around the world, there's nothing that can stand in our way. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Very impressive and very touching to see what vision you have. We're also very happy that our experts have prepared some questions for you to see how we can break down the barriers of access, not of technology. And the first one to start is Franz Josef Hueinig. So, lieber Franz Josef, ich gebe zu dir.
Franz, you have the floor.
Ja, die App, ich habe sie
well, this app, I tested the app because I also have problems in speaking, and it also suggests sentences and phrases and words to use and makes communication better. And you can align and adjust the app to your own way of speaking. I actually aligned it to me and my needs. And I can say, for instance, I am thirsty. And the app knows me and it tells me, I'm dehydrated like a raisin. Bring me something to drink before I start drinking water from the toilet. So my question, I will ask it through my avatar, and it's in English, I guess.
Hello, Franz Josef. It's nice of you to let me speak again. Of course, I know why. Your English is terrible. So now I get to help out as your avatar. The Scott Morgan Foundation created me so that people like you can communicate freely in any language with your own voice. And speaking of voice, what you may not know yet, Franz Josef, is that the Talk to Me Goose app can also speak with your own voice, just like me. You just have to program it. And now to the question. Typing questions into a cell phone takes a lot of time and creates pauses that make communication difficult. How does the Talk to Me Goose app make communication easier and faster? And an additional question. What are the costs of this app for people with disabilities?
Franz Josef, thank you for the question, and it's an honor. I too am working with the Scott Morgan Foundation, and it's been an honor to work with them. And this is why Merlin was born, was to help close that awkward pause and to help people, especially those with motor deficits, close that awkward pause. It help accelerate the time to communicate and re-engage people. But I can talk about it, or I can just use Merlin maybe to help answer your question. How does Merlin help accelerate communication? Merlin's making magic now.
You know, Merlin has been a game changer for me. It helps speed up my conversations so I don't feel like I'm slowing people down, and I can actually keep up with the flow of talking naturally.
So with very little input, Merlin takes my intention and provides me with suggestions in a very short period of time that allows me to stay engaged with the conversation, and that was the intention. By using generative AI to surface suggestions based on my very little input, so I don't have to type everything I say. We like to say I type less and say more. And this, to me, is a very good use for AI in today's world. Your second question, how much does it cost? My objective is that it costs little to nothing for people living with disabilities. That is the model that we've established in the US with the Live Like Lou Foundation, is that we're making it available to people living with ALS for free, that we have received a small grant to cover our administrative costs. We have established a second app called Fables Adventures, which is a revenue-generating app that allows everyone, children, teens, adults, kids of all ages, to generate stories, share them, create a community of storytelling for a cause that generates revenue, that allows us to to cover some of our costs to make this available to people living with disabilities for free. And we're looking right now for funding and for administrative partners to help us distribute this around the world. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you very much for your answer, David. We have one more question from Karin Stöckler.
Talk to Me Goose wurde im März 2005.
Talk to Me Goose was launched in March 2025. It's a wonderful possibility to give a voice to people with voice problems, and in particular patients with ALS, with an input that uses inbuilt text modules. What can we do here in Austria to make this app more known among people, and how can we support its further rollout and expansion?
Make the access easier to the app, and of course to support with the implementation for people who need it in Austria.
Yes. So I'm looking for three things here in Vienna. Specifically, and as I go forward, I'm looking for technology partners to help people get access to the tools that they need to connect. So whether they need devices. This is available on consumer-grade devices, iPads, iPhones, Android devices, and Windows machines. I'm also looking for administrative partners, distribution partners, similar to what we have with the Live Like Lou Foundation. Folks to be boots on the ground and help be the channel partners, if you will, to make it available for people, whether those be non-governmental organizations or social services organizations, to help make this available to people who need it. And I'm looking for funding partners to help us cover our administrative and infrastructure costs to make this available. But those costs are actually not that high. Cost should not be a barrier. Language is not a barrier, and process should not be a barrier. Those things are artificial. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, David Betts. I'm pretty optimistic that you will find what you were looking for. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for the opportunity that you create for so many people. Wir haben also gesehen, wie wichtig die Stimme ist, und zum Abschluss
We've seen, or rather heard, how important a voice is, and to close this session we will listen from Ms. Eder how the project will be implemented in Austria.
Dankeschön, David Pett, für deine Präsentation.
Thank you very much, David Pett, for your presentation. Thank you to everyone for listening. Thank you to those who asked questions. I think this is a very important innovation because it gives people back their dignity by regaining their voice. I also think it's excellent that the app will be made available for free to people with disabilities. We will organize a roundtable immediately after the end of this event to discuss how we can make this app more known in Austria, how we can implement it in Austria. Whoever is interested is more than welcome to attend the roundtable discussion. If there's anyone here in the room who would like to support or finance this project, don't talk to Goose, but talk to David Betts. Thank you very much.
Den Appell kann ich nur bekräftigen. Hier, also
I can only subscribe to that. Please do take the next steps here, and we will move on to the third innovation, which brings us back to healthcare, or healthcare access rather, for people with learning disabilities or learning difficulties, and we will hear about the third innovation.
Von Annalena Ernstberger.
In My Head by Annalena Ernstberger.
Ist gerade nur Leere.
Right now my head feels completely empty. It feels warm and cozy, like a freshly made bed that I love to lie down in. You can't erase your own history. You can only forget it. Unfortunately, I've forgotten mine. I cannot remember a single thing. And that's why I'm finding it so difficult right now to write down my biography. I often feel tiny. I often feel that I'm not good enough. Right now, my head is just empty. a gaping void. And yet 1,000 thoughts are buzzing around in my head. They're darting to and fro and fro and to as fast as mice, so that unfortunately I cannot grasp them. That makes me very sad.
Wir legen los unsere Vorstellung der
Let's get started, and I would like to ask Verena Nussbaum of the Social Democrats to present the innovation. Let's give her a big hand.
Ja, vielen Dank. Auch ich möchte mich
Many
kurz
thanks.
beschreiben.
I would also like to describe myself. I'm 163, have grey hair, a grey blazer and skirt, and a red shirt. I would like to start by thanking everyone for these very moving poems we're hearing, and the one we just heard fits very well with the project I selected. Some time ago, I was in touch with Julia Moser and Heidemarie Ecker, who are sitting here on the government bench. We talked about women with disabilities, and there are enormous gaps in the healthcare service. The problem is about how people with learning difficulties communicate. Healthcare professionals often don't know how to interpret these messages. They want to help, but I don't know what to do. And then you have the other kind of situation where people with disabilities cannot actually articulate themselves. They think that they have, or healthcare professionals think they know everything anyway. They won't listen. And that's why I selected the project we're going to hear about now. It's about e-learning. It's about the fact that you empower people with disabilities or with learning difficulties, that you give them the possibility to be prepared to communicate about their needs and what they want to have. But in the healthcare sector, it's also very important, and this goes for hospitals, doctors, and other healthcare professionals, to make sure that these professionals receive the relevant information and training so that they know how to communicate with people with disabilities, so as to be able to communicate with them on a level playing field. And in the healthcare system, of course, this is also about being able to help and provide care and medical support. And that's why I'm looking forward to the presentation of the innovation. Thank you very much, Verena Nussbaum. We're hearing from experts from Belgium. It's about equal treatment. We're looking forward to the presentation by the European Platform for Rehabilitation. Let me introduce Roberto Zanon and Alicia Gomez.
Good morning, distinguished members of Parliament, dear guests, and the Zero Project. Thank you for inviting us here today. It's a privilege for us to stand in this chamber and share with you on such a key matter, which is the right of every person to receive good health care. My name is Alicia Gomez Campos. I'm the Secretary General of EPR, and I am accompanied today by my colleague, Roberto Zanon, who is the head of projects. Thanks. We represent EPR, which is the European Platform for Rehabilitation. We are a European non-profit of service providers to people with disabilities committed to high-quality services, and our headquarters are in Brussels. We are here today to talk about a simple idea that should be obvious, but in practice it isn't, and it is at the core of our Equal Treatment project. People with intellectual disabilities deserve the same quality of healthcare as everyone else. This is not just the principle, it is the law. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities is clear on this: no discrimination, and the highest attainable standards of health for all. The European Union has reinforced this through its strategy for the rights of persons with disabilities and the European Pillar of Social Rights. We have these European frameworks that all countries can work with, and we believe it's really important because the reality on the ground is, at national and regional levels, tell us a different story. As it has been said this morning, people with intellectual disabilities face real and serious barriers when trying to access healthcare. Staff who aren't trained to communicate with them, systems that are not designed for and with them, they are non-inclusive, and a lack of coordination between the doctors who treat them and the people who support them every day. That is why we developed this project, to build better policies, to lower those barriers, to improve staff training, and strengthen collaboration between healthcare professionals and support networks.
Thanks, Alicia. I would like to focus just briefly on the innovation aspects in this project, right? We're mentioning today very often innovation and impact. So why do we think that this project was innovative and why was it probably selective? We tried to involve as many stakeholders as possible. So we understand that, of course, we were talking about access to healthcare. We cannot just involve healthcare professionals. We need to involve, and when we're talking about healthcare professionals, we're not only talking about doctors, but of course you need to talk with nurses as well, but also frontline staff of hospitals, because if you think about it, when a person with an intellectual disability goes to the hospital or to, well, let's say to a hospital, it's not the doctor, the person that they met first, right? So that we need to support and to work with also frontline staff. So making sure that we involve as many stakeholders as possible in the healthcare domain. But at the same time, given that one of the problems identified was that there was not strong collaboration between the social sector that often supports people with intellectual disabilities when they go to a hospital, and the healthcare sector, there is no proper dialogue, the trainings are different, the mindsets are different as well. So we try to tackle this issue and try to build a bridge by providing content also for service providers on how to promote the equal treatment and how to work with the healthcare sector as well. Overall, we try to include, of course, as much as possible people with intellectual disabilities in all the aspects of the project, in the implementation, but also in the drafting phase and in the impact, so what happened after the project was finalized. How did we do that? So that was the innovation on the way, but how did we do that? We developed online trainings, well, to support healthcare professionals on specific aspects. And these specific aspects were chosen through a needs analysis at the beginning of the project. So we identified that, of course, clear communication that was mentioned before, how to clearly communicate with a person with an intellectual disabilities about their health, how to remind ourselves that they are the ones that we should actually target when we speak about these matters, and how to do that properly, and how to support them in the decision-making process. So they are deciding on their health. So how can we as health professionals support them in doing that instead of targeting just the family, for example, which is, of course, important, but not the core. So clear communication. We targeted frontline staff, for example, by providing training on what understanding intellectual disability, very simply, and a set of good practices and also legal framework for all stakeholders. We also tried to have an impact at European level by developing policy recommendations, and my Secretary General will tell more about that. And maybe later during the discussion, we'll have the chance to go more in depth on what happened at national level. How did we actually impact the higher education system in the 5 countries involved in the project?
Thank you, Roberto. So the recommendations of the project were 6. Very concrete: mandatory training for healthcare staff, standardized adjustments in healthcare settings, accessible information as a standard, involving people with intellectual disabilities in designing the services that are meant for them, a stronger coordination between health and support services, and embedding inclusive healthcare into national policy and into, sorry, because this is the wrong slide, into national policy and medical education. As it was mentioned earlier, Austria was among the first countries that signed the UN CRPD, the convention. Still, there are barriers to healthcare access. So this is what the Equal Treatment Project was built to address. These are not radical asks, they are practical, they are evidence-based, and they can save lives. So we encourage you to use these EU frameworks, listen to the people with lived experience and the service providers, and be open to cooperation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Roberto. Thank you, Alicia. We now have questions for you. And the first question will come from Bernadette Feuerstein.
Bei Menschen mit Lernschwierigkeiten werden Themen wie Sexualität, Kinderwunsch, Verhütung oder Genderidentität oft nicht ernst genommen oder als Menschenrecht angesehen. Gibt es in diesem Equal Treatment Project auch dazu spezifische Empfehlungen und Richtlinien für die Politik und für die Menschen, die in diesem Bereich arbeiten? Und haben die Personen mit Lernschwierigkeiten Möglichkeit, in geschützten Räumen darüber zu sprechen oder Informationen zu bekommen? Und eine Zusatzfrage. Es ist beeindruckend, dass sich die Kompetenzen und die Kommunikationsfähigkeiten, wie angegeben, um 70% verbessert haben. Aber es würde mich interessieren, welche Indikatoren da festgesetzt wurden, um diese Veränderungen und Verbesserungen zu messen und zu überprüfen.
Danke, Bernadette Feuerstein. So I will try to summarize the questions. People with learning disabilities are not properly instructed on the topics of sexuality or founding a family or identity. Is there some part where there is specific focus on those topics? Also, is there like a safe space where they can learn and talk about these topics? And another question was that the communication of the students was better with those topics, but what indicators were used to see that there was progress?
Yeah. So to answer the first question, no, we didn't tackle reproductive rights or sexuality in this specific project. We identified the needs when we did the needs analysis, but the frameworks when it comes to reproductive rights is very different in different countries, so that we would have taken probably a different project just to cover these aspects. Potentially it could be a very nice follow-up to this one, focusing on those specific aspects. And also when we selected the doctors, of course, every doctor has a different specialization, so we focused on a few of them, and we couldn't cover all of them because the needs would have been different. So it could be a very good complementary project to this one, and why not think about it? It could be very good. When it comes to how did we measure the competencies, two ways at least. So, well, we piloted, of course, the training with a few hundreds stakeholders, against doctors, nurses, students. They are trained to become nurses or doctors. And so during the pilots, they provided a self-assessment in that case. But in the e-learning modules, there is a test that is embedded at the end of the training of the module. For each module, there are 20 questions. Well, in order to actually pass the test, you need to have a score of, I think it's 12 out of 20, if I remember correctly. But we embedded a test in the training course itself to make sure that actually it's not just about doing the training just to do that, but to actually learn something. This is also what allowed us to have this course accredited in some countries and mandatory in some courses for nurses, for example, in the members of the consortium.
Thank you very much for the answer. We have another question from Rudolf Cavagna.
Ja, einen schönen Vormittag von meiner Seite. Wir von ÖZIF sagen
Good morning and thank you. At ÖZIF, the Austrian stakeholder group, we always say nothing about us without us. We want to be involved. How exactly were people with intellectual disabilities involved in the advisory board to ensure that communication tools and training content developed actually meet the practical needs and those affected do not merely reflect the medical perspective?
Process, and what was the reception of the doctors?
So he has nothing about us without us. We try to embed the involvement of people with intellectual disabilities in all the aspects of the project. Well, I will start by the advisory board. We were very lucky we have a strong collaboration with Inclusion of Europe, that is the official body at the European level representing people with intellectual disabilities. So they joined us as a part of the advisory board with the European Specialized Nurses Organization and HOPE, which is the European an umbrella organization representing hospitals. So they joined us in the advisory board and they gave feedback. We met them a few times and they gave feedback on the policy recommendations, for example, so to make sure that they are aligned with what they also believe in. It was also very interesting. At some points, they gave us feedback on the language. Of course, you must use the right language when you talk about people with intellectual disabilities, so that was a very specific area they supported us in. They joined the conference when we presented the results of the project, and again, they shared some policy recommendations as well. They were involved in the needs analysis. We involved, a few hundred people, and 120 of them, more or less, were people with intellectual disabilities. So trying to make sure that the training we provided would be rooted in their needs. We had a co-production protocol in the project to make sure that, in general, we involved them in every aspect, in giving feedback, etc. So we tried to embed everything, their contribution everywhere, practically, in the project, when possible. And the second question, sorry, I forgot about it.
How it was perceived by the medical staff, but I guess very good.
That's a very good question. I think that that has to do with the role of the doctor in different countries. Doctors perceive themselves very different in different countries, and also sometimes the age of the doctor has an influence. I think that, and the gender as well. So some doctors are more open and understand that, of course, they must target the person with intellectual disability, not the family, but I would say mixed reviews on that.
We still have to work on that. Thank you very much for the presentation. All the best for the implementation, and thank you very much. Zum Abschluss darf ich noch einmal Verena Nussbaum für die weiteren Schritte nach vorne bitten.
And I would like to ask Verena Nussbaum to talk to us about the next steps, please, to close this section. As we heard during the Q&A how important this topic is, and that's what I will do in my political activity. We will have the option of further discussing this during the roundtable event together with the other project from Spain. I think it's crucial that this field, which is a very large field, is included also in the training field, and I will work on that also in the future. Thank you very much.
Aus dem Gesundheitsbereich, wir haben gehört, ein Schwerpunkt auch
from the health care sector, we will move to the crisis and emergency sector. We'll talk about section number 4. Emergency Call Dialogue by Ron Pfennigbauer and Annalena Ernstberger. How would you report the emergency? I would just say why I called and what's the matter with me. I would do the same, and I would say what's the matter with me. How would you make an emergency call if you were not able to speak? Well, then I would explain that I have to sit in the front because I'll be sick in the back, but you wouldn't be able to speak. So you'd have to communicate with the ambulance people in another way. How would you do that? I'd write or sign. That's a good idea. If I made a call and I couldn't speak, I'd write a text message, or I'd ask someone to describe my symptoms. Then I would show them where it hurts, and the doctors would take care of everything else. That's a very good idea. I'd get myself one of those emergency watches. My grandfather has one. God bless the emergency watch. And that emergency call with tap SOS. It's so cool that something like that exists now. Thank you. More of this. When will it be available all over the world? There are very few doctors who help people with disabilities and explain things to them clearly so that they understand. I ask that more people become knowledgeable and set up projects like this. Please keep up the good work. That's great stuff.
Das fordern wir auch und Fiona Fiedler.
We ask for the same, and Fiona Fiedler of the NEOS party will introduce the next project that will make sure that emergency calls are accessible also to people with disabilities. Welcome. I'd also like to describe myself. I'm about 80 meters high, red long hair. I'm wearing a zebra look and a black jacket today. Thank you for the reading. It describes very well what the next innovation is about. Why did I select it? We see very often that we don't just have problems in the inclusion area, but also in the area of healthcare. There are things that need to be done. And that's why I thought that this project by Include Tech by Rebecca Hume from the United Kingdom is a very important one. It's just about these things. I have a health problem. I need to call the emergency services. I can't talk. What do I do? I can't speak. I can't write a text message. What to do? There are solutions for this, and it would be great if we could implement something like this also in Austria. And that's why I selected this project.
Dank, Fiona Fiedler.
Thank you, Fiona Fiedler.
Wie schon gesagt, das nächste Projekt kommt aus Großbritannien.
So the next project, as we heard, is from the United Kingdom. It's an app that allows for non-verbal communication in emergency cases. I'm looking forward to Becca Hughes' presentation. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me today. My name is Becca Hume and I'm the founder of Inclutech. Just to give a short description of myself, I am female, 35 years old. I'm wearing complete black today and I have short black bobbed hair. Emergency systems are designed to respond quickly, reliably and fairly. But there is one assumption built into most emergency systems worldwide, and that is for a person to speak. In reality, that assumption doesn't always hold. In emergencies, speech can be lost through stroke, trauma, shock, disability, or fear. When that happens, the barrier is not the emergency service. The barrier is communication. A person in Austria experiences a stroke at home. They recognize what is happening. They know that they need help. But when they try to speak, the words don't come out. They can think clearly and they can hear clearly, but they cannot communicate fast enough for the system that is trying to help them. In that moment, emergency services exist, but access depends on speech. TAP SOS is designed to remove that dependency. It allows a person to request help without speaking, by guiding them through a structured visual interface that shares their location, the situation, and essential information directly to emergency services. And importantly, TAP SOS does not replace emergency systems, it integrates in with them. Emergency operators receive information inside the same systems that they already use, securely, reliably, and in real time. In the United Kingdom, this model is already live and integrated into the national emergency infrastructure following a multi-year accreditation and testing process with public authorities and emergency services. This means that non-verbal emergency requests are handled with the same trust as a voice call. At Inclutech, we work from a simple principle. When you design for the most vulnerable, you design for all. Vulnerability is not a fixed category. It's a human condition that any one of us can experience, temporarily or permanently, at any point in our lives. Systems designed with that reality in mind are not specialist systems, they're simply better systems. What matters most is that this isn't just a UK-specific solution. The need exists in every country, and the model is designed to be adapted into national systems, languages, and regulations. Implementation can be measured through either a pilot, technical evaluation and collaboration with emergency authorities and infrastructure partners. We'd welcome the opportunity to explore how this capability could be introduced into Austria's existing emergency systems and how it could support other countries represented here today, because access to emergency help should never depend on the ability to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Becca Hume. Very innovative and simple solution, it seems. The first question comes from Heidemarie Egger.
Thank you so much. As Austrian Advocacy Group for Women with Disabilities, we know women with disabilities are at much higher risk to experience violence. And I would be interested, do you treat women with disabilities as a special target group? Do you have experiences or data on how they use your services? And yes, that's what I would like to know.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you for the question. And also I want to begin by recognise how important the question is. Women with disabilities do face higher levels of violence and often experience additional barriers when trying to access emergency services. And TAP SOS was designed specifically to reduce the communication barriers, including situations where speaking may not be safe or possible. So in terms of data, TAP SOS intentionally does not require a user to disclose disability, whether that's the type, gender or medical conditions, in order to request assistance. And this reflects three guiding principles, and that's data minimisation under UK GDPR, trauma-informed safeguarding practice, and also the need to remove any friction that could delay access or help in an emergency situation. Because the system operates within regulated emergency response environments, speed, privacy and simplicity are prioritised, and for that reason we don't hold a definitive dataset that segments users by disability category. Where users do choose to provide optional demographic information for service improvement, we do see a strong engagement from women that align with broader safeguarding patterns in silent emergency reporting. However, both gender and disability data are voluntarily given, and we do not require that category. So while I cannot give an exact proportion of women with disabilities using TAP SOS, the design itself is intentionally inclusive, ensuring that people can access emergency help without first having to disclose personal information to fit into predefined categories.
Thank you for the question. Thank you for the answer. The second question comes from Julia Moser.
Thank you very much for presenting this innovation. The Independent Monitoring Committee has been criticizing for many years that the Austrian emergency call system is not fully accessible for persons with disabilities. So I welcome innovations like yours that could help improve the system within our country. You claim that the app can be used by anyone, regardless of their disabilities, regardless of whether they have a disability or not. And I would be interested to know how you ensure that this app is fully accessible for everyone, like, for instance, for the visually impaired or for persons with learning difficulties. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, thanks for the question. Accessibility is very much central to TAP SOS in its design, because the system only works if people with varying different needs are able to rely on it during moments of stress. So from the outset, TAP SOS has been developed according to recognised accessibility standards, including WCAG compliance, universal and inclusive design principles, and co-designed with disabled users. So for people with visual impairments, the app is fully compatible with screen readers, such as VoiceOver and TalkBack, and uses clear navigation structures, high contrast, large touch points, and avoids unnecessary text or time-limited interactions. For people with learning difficulties or cognitive disabilities, the experience is deliberately simple, using plain language, clear icons, and a linear flow that avoids complex form during an emergency comm. For people with mobility restrictions, interaction is designed around large activation areas and minimal fine motor requirements. So for the deaf and hard of hearing and non-verbal users, TAP SOS enables structured non-verbal communication with emergency services. That includes, again, location sharing and pre-stored information where appropriate, and that aspect was developed closely with the deaf community stakeholders. So accessibility is also treated as an ongoing responsibility. It's not a one-time achievement, and we maintain this through independent accessibility reviews, continuous user testing, and engagement with advocacy organisation. Ultimately, our goal is simple. Accessibility should not be a special feature. It should be the default way that emergency systems are designed so that anyone at any point can ask for help.
Thank you very much, Becca Hume, for the presentation, and we wish you all the best with TAP SOS. Und zum Abschluss und für die weiteren Schritte darf ich Fiona Fiedler nach vorne bitten.
And let me ask Fiona Fiedler to talk about the next steps now.
Danke vielmals, danke auch Becca.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Becca,
Auch wir haben im Anschluss einen
for
Tisch, wo ich
this
Sie herzlich
presentation. We also have a roundtable discussion following the end of this event. Everyone is invited to talk about the next steps with us. I have also been thinking about the various hotlines and emergency call providers in Austria who could join us so that we can finally allow for accessible services also in Austria. Let me thank Martin Essl and his team in closing. It's always great to welcome you and your team here at the Austrian Parliament. It's a bit like family members coming together once a year, and I'm also looking forward to the actual conference. Thank you.
Herzlichen Dank, und jetzt kommen wir.
Thank you very much. And let's now move on to the fifth and last innovation.
Nichts über uns ohne uns. Von Vanessa Veit.
Nothing about us without us. Vanessa Veit.
Kannst nichts über mich erzählen.
You cannot say anything about me. You don't have this impairment.
Aber ich kann dir einiges
But
darüber
I can tell you a few things about it
hineinfühlen kannst.
so that you can understand me better.
Ich bin ständig überdreht.
I'm always overexcited. I can't sleep. I hardly ever take breaks. And when I'm in a shop, I'd love to buy hundreds of things. You think I'm strange or weird.
Aber das ist
But that is completely normal with my impairment. If you had this impairment, you would know how difficult this phase is for me. I can't control my impulses properly. I fall in love quickly. And that's why I don't like it when people talk about me, because then they get a wrong impression of me. I prefer to talk about myself, so that people can understand me better and I can be heard. And that's why I don't say anything about us without us. Only you yourself can describe yourself best. Nobody likes it when people talk about them. There are some things about me that bother me, but still people like me. They deal with my disability. And nevertheless, I feel like a normal person. Other people who hear this and don't know me might think I'm crazy. But there's a reason why things are the way they are. I like myself the way I am. It's also important to me that other people can relate to me and understand me. And I believe that that is the case with every one of us.
Für die Präsentation unseres nächsten
For the presentation of our next project, I'd like to welcome Ralf Schallmeiner from the Green Party and ask him to come up to the podium.
Dankeschön.
Thank you very much. To start, I will also describe myself. 181 centimeters, grey hair, beard, glasses, blue suit, white shirt. And what is my favorite color? You can imagine that. But politically, I come from a different coin. Dobar dan, Marina. Welcome. And thank you for this possibility of being here. Thank you, Martin Essl. This is a wonderful project. I can only echo what Fiona Fiedler said. Now, why did I choose this project? I said that last year with a similar project, I looked at the list and I waited for something to catch my attention. And again this year, there was one project that caught my attention. I'm the father of 2 children. I know how important language acquisition is. Provide support to children learning language. It's good when they get support, professional support. And let me tell you something else. My wife is from Bosnia-Herzegovina. We know the Balkans. We know what the infrastructure is like there. And so it was easy for me to understand that Montenegro has a different situation regarding language learning, language acquisition, compared to other countries, and that people would get the support they need. Montenegro, I'm member of the Montenegro-Serbian-Austrian Parliamentary Friendship Group. I attended the reception last night at the embassy, and so it was clear it was a perfect match for me to select that project. It's very impressive what has been created. A free app, scientifically based app. It's there to support people, and it's viable. It comes in handy for all practical purposes. It's free of advertising. That also is a quality feature, and people accept it. People love it. 13,000 children, 6 months after it had been rolled out, are being supported. All these are quality criteria, wonderful. And I think this is something that needs to be presented to our forum, and this is something Austria as well should look at as a good example. And this is why I selected this project. Thank you very much, Ralf Schallmeier. This is an app, a program developed in Montenegro for making language therapy accessible to children in difficult or remote areas. And we look forward to the presentation of the tool. Marina Kupic, you have the floor.
Thank you. Guten Tag.
Yeah.
For those who don't see me, I am female. I'm wearing a light pink suit. I have a long brown hair. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. We all know how this song continues, don't we? But we didn't learn it from textbooks. We learned it through play. Today, speech and language difficulties are among the most common issues in early childhood. But for many families, early treatment is still uneven or it comes too late. Every delay in early support later becomes much bigger cost for families and for systems. Sofisova exists for one simple reason: access. Not every child has the same access to speech therapy, but every parent has a phone in their pocket. Sofisova is a play-based mobile tool that helps children learn through play and pronounce letters, learn phonetic. It brings early support closer to families where it is needed most. What truly makes Sofisova different is where it comes from. It was created from parents' perspective. It was inspired by my own children and my own experience. Sofisova is designed to have zero negative impact. No pressure, no competition, no overstimulation. Just play and real support for communication. That means it was designed for child and parent, not for metrics, statistics, or any kind of results. It is not meant to keep children on screens. It is meant to help them find their voice. Sofisova is a prevention-focused tool that is currently being evaluated for a national research initiative in Montenegro. It can support education and health systems by reducing waiting times, strengthening parental involvement, and also by lowering long-term social and educational costs. Technology is not the enemy. When it is designed properly, it can become a strong ally for inclusion. Sophie Sova already supports more than 15,000 children in Montenegro and the region speaking Serbian, Bosnian, Croatian, all due to the proximity of the languages. But now imagine the impact if this model were scaled across languages and implemented into big systems like Austrian, for example, reaching children early before challenges become barriers. Thank you. Danke. Hvala.
Thank you for the presentation, Marina. We also have the first question. Die erste Frage kommt von...
The first question comes from Simon Couvreur.
Vielen Dank.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. Can all children use this app themselves? Or do the children need an assistance, an accompanying persons to help them? And does this app, is it available in English or in German?
So, is it possible for kids to use the app on their own, or do they need assistance or their parents next to them? And is the app also available in English and German?
Thank you for the question. The app is actually designed for the children to use it completely independently, but parent involvement or adult involvement from the side of the speech therapist or parent can enrich the experience, but it's not necessary. It's completely intuitive, it's interactive, so children can play it. Through play, they learn, and through listening, there all the instructions, and it's very, very interactive, you know. And what was the other
English and German.
Okay. For the time being, it is only available in Montenegrin, but it is already played in the region, speaking similar languages, Serbian, Bosnian, Croatian. But we are now fundraising to adapt it to the languages of region. And once we close this phase of development, we are planning to translate it and completely culturally and linguistically adapt it to the languages like German and English.
Thank you very much. Danke für die Frage. Danke für die Antwort.
Thank you very much for the question. Thank you very much for the answer.
Hey, thank you and congratulations for this very nice approach and application which comes from parents' needs to solve a children's problem in a reality Montenegro which is quite different from the Austrian one. Still, I think that implementing this app in Austria would be of great advantage for the simplicity of the application. Now, my question is, children use it and also the families, but you envisage also the possibility that the professionals in Austria could use this app, and what would you think would be necessary that this application, regardless now of the translation in the German language, but to be adopted also from the speech therapists in Austria? What should be done to realize this concept? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Actually, Sophie Sova is not designed to be a standalone solution. Its full potential is achieved once it becomes a part of the structured model of prevention, you know. But for this kind of implementation, to say we have to pass 3 key elements. First one is pilot testing, validation through kindergartens, early intervention centers, and also involvement of speech therapists and educators from the field to make them sure that this is not the replacement for their position. This is something that they can use alongside therapy, not instead of it, you know. And the last but not the least is institutional support, because it needs to be aligned with all the strategies, national strategies for inclusion and for education.
Thank you very much, Marina Kubic, for the answers, and thank you also for developing the game. I'm looking forward when it is available in German for my little ones. Thank you very much. Damit haben wir auch alle 5 Innovationen, die aus den verschiedensten Bereichen dafür sorgen sollen, dass Barrieren abgebaut werden für Menschen mit Behinderungen in allen Lebensbereichen präsentiert. An dieser Stelle möchte ich nur noch ganz kurz, weil ich glaube, das war einfach ein so passender Bereich und eine passende Ergänzung für wie letztes Jahr. Herzlich willkommen, Ralf Schallmeiner. Aber ich weiß, woran es liegt.
Für diejenigen, die jetzt sich nicht ausgekannt haben, uns ist das Ganze auch letztes Jahr genauso passiert. Aber no bad feeling, also ich glaube nicht. Ich kann zumindest gut darüber lachen.
Well, I can laugh.
Was sind sozusagen, oder was, die Marina hat es schon richtig
Marina rightly mentioned it. The next thing to do is to roll out this app to the rest of the Western Balkans, to have it translated. And I think that would also be an opportunity for Austria. We have a huge diaspora of people
jugoslawischen Staaten, eben auch hier in Österreich leben, für die
from former Yugoslav countries. I think that definitely is an offer for them. So I think it would be good that this app would come to Austria in their mother tongue. Learning a language always works best if you first know your mother tongue and then learn another language. So that also would be an opener, a gate opener, if we had it in Austria, first in the original language and then in German and in English. The sky's the limit, as people say. And later on, we will be able to perhaps debate how we can bring this app as quickly as possible to Austria.
Herzlichen Dank.
Thank you very much, Ralf Schallmeier. I apologize once again. As a moderator, you should think ahead of the next 3 or 4 steps, especially towards the end of a meeting. And I apologize for forgetting about Mr. Schallmeier. I take the seat here because we had this wonderful assistants here today. I'd like to thank Gregor Seeberg and Maria Hofstetter for the wonderful readings they gave us. And Franz Josef, I have taken the seat next to you for a particular purpose. Do you have any conclusion, any message you'd like to share with us as we go home? Wonderful texts. Thank you very much. And it was great that we heard those readings that were presented to us. Conclusion. Well, the main message, the key message is that how things have developed so wonderfully. And the presentations, the moderation, the contributions, all that is very, very useful for people with disabilities, that they can use their potential to the full. I think it's wonderful that we can do that, and the added value which we create. This has been vividly demonstrated, and I'd like to thank everybody for the texts, for the presentations, for the team who have organized this meeting so wonderfully, and also the anniversary fund Licht ins Dunkel by ORF, which has made this possible. I'd like to join you in thanking the authors, and then we'll give them a show of hand. Alina Ernstberger, Iris Zeitlinger, Henrik Bauer, Vanessa Weid, mentors, Maike Heinrich, Christina Fiegel, Denise Wiesmeier. Let's give them a show of hands.
Kannst gerne aufstehen.
You may rise from your seat if you wish.
Und eine abschließende Frage.
And a final question to you, Franz Josef. Access, easy access. What does that mean to you in terms of art, culture? How can it be designed inclusively? And the answer would be given by my avatar, namely that everybody should be given an opportunity to engage in an exchange. We have booklets on projects, how you can write a text with special tools, how people with special needs, with impairments can do such a thing. Go there, do it, inform yourself. And now my avatar.
Was Franz Josef 2.0 zu sagen hat.
What does Franz Josef 2.0 have to say to us?
Barrierefreiheit und Inklusion.
Free access and inclusion require mutual understanding, the way we've been demonstrated to be today, listening to one another, exchanging perspectives. Culture can build bridges, and literature, it's a door opener.
Herzlichen Dank.
Thank you very much, Franz Josef. And those open doors is something we'd like to use. Let me repeat. We have some guidance material here for inclusive literature, inclusive art and culture. All that will be available outside in the column hall for you to pick up a copy. And to conclude, I'd like to ask Mr. Markus Stother, the President of the Second Chamber of the Austrian Parliament, for his closing remarks.
Ja, für alle, die mich nicht sehen.
For those of you who can't see me,
bin 1,87 groß.
187 height, blue suit, blue glasses,
Wahrscheinlich
and
stark gewachsene oder gegelte Haare.
I have
Nationalratspräsident, werte
a very slick hairstyle. Honourable members of the National Council, dear Zero Project awardees, ladies and gentlemen. What we've heard and seen today is more than just a collection or series of innovative projects. It's a powerful sign that inclusion is not just a buzzword, but a mission for all of us. We just discussed accessible elections, a fundamental democratic right that can only be truly realized when everyone can participate without barriers. Democracy cannot be measured by how well it works for the majority, but by whether it's also accessible to those who need special support. We have addressed the inclusion of people with intellectual disabilities in public hospitals. Healthcare should not be a question of adaptability, neither linguistically nor organizationally. A healthcare system is strong when it adapts to people's need and not the other way around. What was particularly impressive is an AI-supported app enabling people with ALS to communicate in their voice. If you know what an eloquent speaker he was, it's good to know that his voice is still there, out there. This is more than technical progress. It's a piece of dignity, identity, an opportunity to be heard as the person you are. We heard about cross-sectoral partnerships that improve access to healthcare for people with intellectual disabilities. And this is precisely where the solution lies. Inclusion cannot be achieved alone. It arises from the interaction of politics, administration, business, research, and civil society. It is equally important that we further develop our national emergency call systems. in nonverbal communication. An emergency call must be accessible to everyone at any time, regardless of any individual communication capabilities. Safety must not have any barriers. And finally, we heard about the free speech therapy tool for children, which uses games and music. It shows that innovation is not just about high-tech, but about creativity, about empathy, and the courage to break new ground. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about barriers, many of us first think of structural obstacles, steps, missing ramps, or lifts. As the mayor of a town, I know how much still needs to be done in that area. However, barriers of everyday life are a lot more subtle, complicated forms, incomprehensible information, digital services that are not designed to be accessible. And especially in the rural area, these barriers make themselves felt. For many people, that means greater dependence, more effort, more uncertainty. And this is precisely where innovative solutions are needed. We need a political willingness to strengthen those structures. Inclusion is not an urban project. It starts at the rural level, at the local level. For many years, the Zero project has been encapsulating that very spirit to network information, to showcase proven models and successful approaches. It reminds us that progress is possible if you're willing to listen, to learn from another, and to act together. Let us start bringing down barriers, polling stations in hospitals, in the digital space, in emergency call systems, and especially let's not only hear the voices of people with disabilities, but actively involve them in decisions, in developments, and in political processes. An inclusive society is not a vision for the future, it is a task for here and now. Let me express my special thanks to the organizers for their commitment and dedication, and to two actors for the impressive readings, and the entire project team for the moments of emotion we have experienced. I'd like to thank you for your commitment, your dedication, and efforts to create a barrier-free and just society. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the President of the Second Chamber of the Austrian National Parliament. There is little to add to end our meeting here in Parliament. Engaging in an exchange, interacting to remove barriers in Austria, in all walks of life. The human right of participation is something that is so deep to our heart, and something we're going to discuss and see in the upcoming conference in the next few days. There will now be a reception in the column hall, Säulenhalle, for everyone. So this is an invitation to stay and take part in the reception. I'd like to invite everybody to be available for a photo session, those who presented the projects and those who intervened. And what makes our meeting so regal and so beautiful is the Zero project hymn or anthem. We'll listen to the anthem, and what is it and why is it so wonderful? Why is it that I love it so much? Is something Ella Essl will present to us.
Zero Project
is a global initiative of the Essl family. At its commission, the anthem was composed. Our partners produced video clips, and in this video clip, you will see people from 17 countries as they sing the anthem in their local languages. And this performance encapsulates the goal of Zero Project, to remove barriers for people all over the world.
Employment, accessibility, independent living, and political participation, innovative practices, and innovative policies. A network of civil society.
If you see me, take me just the way I am. We could change the world because we understand. If we both are part of the same society, I could be me. Zero barriers, zero walls, zero borders, zero bonds, zero limits. By reaching our aim, zero project, the dignity of man.
If you give me chances and take me by the hand, if you let me grow and if you let me be, if we all gave up our partiality, then I could be free.
Zero barriers, zero walls, zero borders, zero bonds, zero limits. Reaching our end, zero project, the dignity of man. Innovative practices and innovative policies. A network of civil zero walls, zero borders, zero bonds, zero limits. By reaching our aim, zero project, zero
Vielen herzlichen Dank. Haben Sie noch eine schöne Zeit, einen schönen Empfang.
Thank you very much. I wish you a pleasant reception and a wonderful time. Thank you also for signing up to the live stream, and let's engage in a networking session out there. See you all next year again. Thank you.